When you've lost love, trust, safety, or even your sense of self, it can feel like there's no way back. Many of us have been there. But the truth is, every story that hits bottom has the potential to rise again. If we're brave enough to face what broke us and believe that healing is still possible, well, it happens, right? We just have to be brave enough and also believe. My guest today, Kerie Hamilton, is living proof of that. She's the creator and host of the Bottoms Up podcast, and it's a space for raw, unfiltered conversations about trauma, transformation, and hope. Because as Carrie says, even when you fall to the bottom, there's always a way back up. She has lived through abandonment, child abuse, narcissistic relationships, depression, domestic violence, divorce, and grief. But she's turned all of that pain into purpose, helping others see that survival is not the end of the story. It's not the end of her story, it's not the end of your story. So, in this episode of True Silence Stories, we're talking about what happens when life takes you all the way down to the ground, where you hit rock bottom, and how breaking silence becomes the first step toward rising again. And it is my prayer and hope and wish for everyone who's been there to rise fully, wholly in their purpose and their healing. So let's get into it. This is from Silence to Strength Rising After the Fall with Kerie Hamilton. Kerie, welcome. I'm
Thank you so
so I'm so honored that you've chosen to be on this podcast today.
I'm beyond honored, and it's such an amazing thing because I mean you are hand in hand with even what I'm here for, my purpose. And I think it's just truly amazing, even you doing the podcast and giving that hope to people, because sometimes you just need that one believer that
Yeah.
lets you know that you're going to do it. You're going to make it. And even in the darkness, there's
Mhm.
always light. You just have to keep moving forward to find it.
Amen. Amen to
So,
that.
and it's
Thank
like,
you.
like you said, and even with my podcast, the reason it's called Bottoms Up is because, you truly, I kind of tell this to everybody. I say, you know what? You can't build an empire on top of a one-story home, right? You have to
Right.
demolish it. You have to bring it to the rock bottom and get that gravel, pavement foundation, and then
Mhm.
build yourself up. And what better way than, when you think rock bottom is the end, but really what a blessing to be there, because that's just the beginning. And there's only
Yeah.
one way. You can't go down any further. So what's the only way to go is up. So it's
That
such a amazing place to be. I say, hey, what are you talking about? Rock bottom's the best place to be. You don't have any more to demolish. you know? Now it's time to get those studs and start building.
Right, right. And isn't it amazing that we can smile about it now, but in that moment, now it's sometimes I think about it and I think about my past and now I'm like, it's almost comical.
Yeah.
However, when you're going through it, it's not funny at all. There's nothing to laugh about because you're in it. You're in the ache, you're in the rut, you're in the mud and the muck of it all. And sometimes you feel like you're going under and you're like, okay. And you want to throw in the towel, but you realize, no, there's still life to be lived. And this is not just for me. There's got to be another way to
Yeah.
live. This can't be the end of my story. Right?
100%. And it really does boil down to the mind. Your mind is the steering wheel to your entire life. And when you stop counting the burdens, because let's face it, life will always be lifing, right? I mean, we
Mhm,
will never
mhm.
have a day that something isn't. I mean, look at us this morning. We're having the Mondays, it's just that's just life. The life will always
Yeah.
have some kind of curveball because we didn't make this life. We just live it. And so
Yeah.
if you don't count the burdens, but you actually seek the blessings,
Mhm.
you will always strive to see what is out there and what is coming your way. And when you realize that this isn't to destruct you, it's actually to
Yeah.
discover you, to discover your true
Right.
meaning and purpose of why you're here. And a lot of us are we are so adaptive to living in a life to always help others and be, be a person for another, when really we need to be that person for ourselves. And that is where, again, it's not to destruct you or destroy you, it's to discover you so you can finally live in that authentic self of
Mhm.
yours and be free. Because we're
Yeah,
all sitting here living in this life that's like, do better, get
right.
more money, more this. And it's like we're stretching for these desires, but we're not feeling the love that of what we've
Mhm,
done. Why can't we sit
mhm.
in the moment and enjoy the process? Because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
process and the obstacles are the path, the true
Mhm,
path of where you're supposed to go,
mhm.
with life in general. And once you realize that, you don't see life as a destruction anymore. It's more
Right.
a, wow, I needed that heartache or whatever to
Mhm.
discover myself, and that's, yeah, it's just, it's such a blessing. It really, really
Yeah,
is once you look at it in that aspect.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. You've been through you were sharing some stuff with me before we went on live,
Mhm.
and you've been through a lot. What gave you the strength to start speaking about them publicly, like the way you have on your Bottoms Up podcast and to share your story with others? What gave you the strength?
What gave me the strength is my story, and I know wholeheartedly because I was that person looking for another's story, is the survival guide for someone else. And so just to
Mhm.
hear that someone else had gone through similar and has, totally turned around and succeeded, we are so able and capable of being in this victim mentality and, oh, poor me, and, oh, why me, and, and we get in that rut when
Mhm.
realistically, like, you don't realize that, wow, this was actually done, until you're on the other side of it. That's when you realize, wow, that was done because God was saving me. That
Yeah.
rejection was my protection. And
Yeah.
once you see that, you're like, oh my God. And so that's why I tell my story, because in my darkest moments, I was, my story is abuse. I was with someone that was severely abusive. And it got to the point where if I stayed, it was 100% chance that I was going to die. Because if it wasn't the hands of my abuser, it was going to be from the stress that was caused, making me so sick, being, abused day to day, mentally, emotionally, physically, all of that. And so I knew that I had a 50% chance of living by taking the steps and leaving and loving myself more than the abuser that I was trying to save and help, and discover that they could see the love that I saw in them and not the beast that they were.
Mhm.
And that is why I share my story, because if we sit in the pain, we're sitting in the fire. Of course you're
Mhm.
going to get burned if you sit there. You got to keep moving. You're going to have blisters, it's going to be sore, you're going to go through pain, but I'm telling you,
Mhm.
once you're out of that fire, you are going to see that life is so beautiful and it really is such a
Mhm.
gift.
Yeah.
And that's where I was in that darkness, and it got to the point that, I mean, I became suicidal. And it wasn't because,
Mhm.
in my old mentality, I would say, like, for instance, when I heard like Robin Williams, had committed suicide, I thought, oh my God, this guy's rich. He's a millionaire. He was so funny in all his
Yeah.
videos. And like, what,
Yeah.
what could be so bad with that? I mean, he's living the best life. Everyone would love to live that life. But when you're actually in it, it wasn't that, I mean, I have children, I own a company, like, I mean, it wasn't that I didn't appreciate those things. Actually, those were the things that kept me going and kept me
Right.
pushing forward. But you get to a point where you're so beaten down, and so just your self-esteem and self-confidence and self-worth is just so little that you
Mhm.
feel that now you're actually a burden to the people that you love and to the blessings that you have. And so the reason that I was suicidal, it wasn't because I wanted to die. It was because death sounded peaceful. And I craved
Mhm.
peace more than anything, because
Mhm.
every day I wasn't living to live, I was living to survive. And it
Wow.
gets tiring. It gets tiresome. You want to throw that towel in, just like you said, because
Mhm.
what is there left for me other than
Yeah.
struggle and destruction and chaos? I just want to be at peace. I just want
Mhm.
a day of peace. And so that was why just the voice and the flavor of death sounded so wonderful, because I just wanted to be at peace already. And
Mhm.
that's where you get to the realization that you have to go. I mean, it's written in the Bibles everywhere. It's written everywhere. Going through is the only way. And you have to go through that to see that there is light at the other side of the tunnel. And you don't
Yeah.
see it because it is dark. It's dark
Yeah.
right now and you can't see it. But once you keep going and you gotta keep moving forward, you can't go backwards. Behind you is just dark. You gotta
Mhm.
keep going forward. And that is why I tell my story, because I know that there's someone in there contemplating that death right now, thinking of it like it's a 5 course meal and feeling the flavor of it because it just sounds so peaceful.
Mhm.
And I'll be the first one to say, I mean, Joe, I had the extension cord around my neck. I stood on a 5 gallon paint bucket. I had 1 foot off. And you know what saved me? The light popped. The light in my basement popped. And I thought,
Wow.
oh my God. So I stepped backwards back on the bucket. That's how close I was to suicide. That is how
Wow.
close. And if that isn't someone saving grace and someone telling you, and if my voice isn't the
Yeah.
voice of telling you that there's hope, then
Yeah.
I mean, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. And
Mhm.
there's, you know, the Mr. Rogers, a show that a lot of us had watched in a younger age, and he would always say, "Seek the helpers." And it's so
Mhm.
true. I think a lot of trauma people, they will say, "It wasn't my mom that saved me. It wasn't my aunt. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't whatever. It was a helper. It was a random person or a
Yeah.
random event, a stranger." And
Mhm.
that's what I hope to be. I hope to be that stranger that is giving you the help. I want to be the seeker for you to say, "Hey, there's more to this. You
Mhm.
just got to
Mhm.
keep going." You know. So
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
that's what gives me the strength. That's what gives me the strength every day, because I hope that it just falls in the ears of the person that needs to hear this, because we are all someone. We are some of the one, and we
Mhm.
all are a masterpiece, a piece of the master, and that's just it. We have to
Yeah.
take those pieces, and those pieces are what build that masterpiece. So being in that destruction and being in where you are, you're in the greatest place. As crazy
Mhm.
as it sounds right now, being in the darkness and you don't see it, you're actually in the best seat in the house. You just got to see it. You got to see how beautiful you are in the eyes that our creator, our source, our biggest, God, whatever part that you believe in, you just have to see it through those eyes. And
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And sometimes, it appears that the world is against us and
mhm.
everyone else is against us, and we just throw our hands up and say, "Chuck it, whatever happens, happens."
Yep.
Uh, and you said you were so close to
Yes.
that, and thank God for the light bulb
Yes.
that popped,
Yes.
which was a saving grace. It was not your time and not the way that God wanted you to leave this earth, even though you were looking for peace,
Yes.
uh, because He had a bigger plan for you, and He still does, especially the way you tell your story and you walk through those particulars. And a lot of people are living what they're not living,
Yes. And
and
that's
it's,
where you get lost. You get lost.
yes.
And again, it's all mental. When you
Mm-hmm.
start
Mm-hmm.
training, I tell individuals this: if we eat junk food, our body starts to show that, right? I mean, if you sit here and
Yeah.
eat like McDonald's every day, you're going to eventually look like you eat McDonald's every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing with the mind. If you feed your mind negativity every single day, all it has to disperse is negativity. But if you
Yeah.
start feeding your mind positivity, and that's all you feed your mind, that's all your mind is going to have to disperse, and you will start seeing things in a different way because
Mm-hmm.
you're changing your mindset to the positivity mindset. And when you don't, and you see everything in a negative manner, that's all, of course you're going to see everything negative, because that's all you're feeding your mind to know. And that's
Right.
the same thing with the body. We really are parts of chemistry and
Mhm.
science and so forth. And that's what you have to do. You have to change that mindset. And I'm telling you, once you do that, your whole life will change. It really,
Right.
truly will. I mean, there's always going to be bad days, but
Mhm.
how would you know the good days if you didn't experience the bad days? Just like you would never know the sun if you didn't experience the rain. It's
Yeah.
what it is. That's
Yeah.
life. That's how you. It's a lesson, you know.
Absolutely.
And so that's what you have to discover in yourself. You have to,
Mhm.
in as much as we want someone to come down and do the work for us, and we want this saving grace, and this human to just drop from the clouds and like pick us up like a crane, it doesn't happen that way. The change comes when you change, when you make the change and you are the change.
Mhm.
That is when it changes. And it
Yeah.
starts with you. You got to realize that there's a bigger purpose, a bigger plan. And
Yeah.
if you woke up this morning and you're still here, there's more for you. That's life. That's You just got to find your purpose. You got to
Yeah.
find that authentic part, you know?
Right. Right. Absolutely. And you have to be willing as well to want to do it, to live and to
Mhm.
put in the work. And there's a weight, a weight of silence. When I think about all the stuff that we have gone through, that I've gone through, that you're explaining and sharing right now, there's a weight of silence. For many survivors, it becomes a protection, right? When we keep
Mhm.
silence, when we silence ourselves or we keep quiet about it, we don't want anyone to know, whether because of pride or people just wouldn't understand what I'm going through, or I can't let them know or see this side of me because we have this face that we put on, right? This mask and this facade. Oh, look at us. We're either the good couple from the outside, so I can't let people on the inside to see what goes on. So we let that silence protect us. But then when we realize that silence is no longer keeping you safe, but keeping you stuck, like for you, when did you realize that? When did you realize that your silence no longer was keeping you safe?
You know, an abuser wants you to be silent because that's how they can get away with what they're doing.
Mhm.
And so when you start to realize that your voice is actually what sets you free, because the more people that are immune to, or have the attention of what they're doing, and they start seeing the actions, you can hide a lot behind closed doors, but eventually those actions become who an individual is. And so when there's these actions that start following the voice that you're expressing and telling, people start seeing the truth, and they start seeing the reality, and then obviously their facade starts falling off. And so when you
Mm.
realize that your voice is actually your saving grace, you
Mhm.
vocalize even more and more and more. And so
Mhm.
that's also, again, why even I'm sitting here right now, is because not only my story is no longer to save me, it's no longer to be a story for me
Yeah.
to express to people, because I don't actually want anyone's attention or anyone's pity, because I've
Right.
already survived when I needed the actual help or the pity or the attention or whatever. I'm on the opposite side. This story is not for me anymore. This story is for
Mhm.
someone out there that's being silent and needs to
Right.
be the voice to free themselves, because
Yeah.
that's truly what it is. We get into comfort. We're all creatures of habit, and we get into
Mhm.
comfort, and we sit in these circumstances and these situations that we're in our life, because that's what keeps us safe. But in reality, your voice and the person you are to become is what's going to
Mhm.
set you free. And that's what you need to do. If you want to be free, you need to start becoming the person you're meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
And that's where you have to use your voice. You have to vocalize. No one is a mind reader. If we were, we probably
Mhm.
would all be the winning lottery people. We'd have the winning lottery numbers. I mean, we put it to good use. But it's when you have your voice, it's when you start stating stuff, and you start analyzing and looking at things that telling the right individuals, or even, like I said, vocalizing, and it's going to hit with the right people that it's supposed to be, meant for. And
Mhm.
that's what's going to give the freedom. Me telling my story frees me every day, because now I'm being
Yes.
the person I'm supposed to be. And I know that I'm still here because I'm the advocate of that person that's going to wants to commit suicide, and that person that's sitting in that abusive relationship or marriage, thinking that they're not good enough. And really,
Mhm.
that's why your abuser chose you, because you are the best. You are the masterpiece, and they need your light to
Wow.
survive. And until
Wow.
you see that it's truly you, that you are the beautiful soul that you are,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's why I need to use my voice. My voice isn't for me, it's for you. It's for,
Right.
the person that's listening, that needs to know that, you know.
Right. Right.
And
Wow.
sometimes, again, it's the seekers, it's the strangers, it's the helpers, it's those people that I've never met in my life. Those are the ones that actually are out here using the voices to save you. And that's eventually who ended up saving me. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, I had
Mhm.
that circumstance that happened with the light breaking, but
Mhm.
it was actually after that. I mean, of course, I fell to the ground. I took the extension cord off. I fell to the ground. I was bawling, like, oh my God, like it was a light for me. But really, the truth is, I went to the grocery store like a day or so after, because I was like, God, if that's truly not what was meant for me, I know that light broke because, that was an alert or whatever, or a sign.
Mhm.
And I was like, I need something. I need you to show me, like, do something, like, just show me that I'm supposed to be here. And so it was a couple days later, I went to the grocery store, and as I was putting the groceries from my grocery cart onto the conveyor belt, there was a woman standing behind me, and she had to be maybe in her 60s, 70s, if I had to say an age. And a couple times as I turned to get my groceries and put them on the conveyor belt, we made eye contact and did like a little smile. You know how you do when you randomly, see someone,
Mhm.
or, that you don't know, and you're like, oh, hey, okay. So anyway, I put my groceries on the cart, and I go to pay for my groceries, and I hand the cashier my card. And as she's handing the card back to me, I feel a hand on my shoulder. And I turn and I look, and it's the lady that was behind me that I kind of smiled at. She smiled back at. And she said to me, you're all right. You're one of the good ones. You're going to be okay. I never met this lady
Wow.
in my life. Never in my
Wow.
life. And I looked at her like a deer in headlights, and I was like, thank you. And I ran
Mhm.
to the car, and I threw my groceries in there, and I just sobbed, like cried.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Wow.
that was the sign that I had asked, for me to be shown. And
Mhm.
so it was her voice and her action and her just saying that. She must have seen something in my face, or just felt the need to say that, or God worked through her, because that's how he
Mhm.
does, works through
Mhm.
people. And that was just enough for me to know. I'll never forget. I took the picture of myself crying in my car, hyperventilating, crying. But I took
Wow.
that picture because I said to myself, if you ever doubt yourself again, you look at this dang picture and you keep freaking moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that was like
Yeah.
my, like, now, from now on, any doubt, you go back to this picture and you remember that day. And that's what I do. Anytime that I, feel that I get back in that victim mentality, or, it's not
Mhm.
going fast
Mhm.
enough for me, or I'm not sure, whatever, and I start doubting myself. I mean, that's us as humans, because we want to be perfect. We want to be wonderful. We want to always do good, and so we get into
Mhm.
that. It's easy to fall into that, poor me, or I'm not doing enough, or whatever. And so, anytime I start to feel myself getting to that point, I look back at that picture and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no.
Wow.
So yes, you have to you have to keep moving, because there's so much more for you. And I mean, even that was over a year ago, and just so many more doors have opened
Mm.
um from that year to today.
Wow.
It's there's so much more in store for you, but you can't do it with having
Mhm.
one foot in the old door. You got to close the door,
Right.
and you got to keep going. you know God
Mhm.
has a
Mhm.
big house with a lot of rooms, and you can't
Mhm.
explore all of them if you don't close the door and leave the room that you're in you
That's
know
right.
and sometimes you feel like you're getting kicked out the door, and that's because you're not making the moves to get out. You can't get to the next room until you leave.
Right, right, absolutely. Wow. Wow.
And like I said, it's not your, it's not rejection, it's protection. So, there's
Mhm.
nothing left for you that's behind you, because if it was meant for you, it'd be following you and it would be
Right.
going with you.
Wow. Wow.
And that's what you have to realize. You have to realize that, and that's the resilience. It's like, what better way to know that here you're in this moment and you're holding on to it and you're thinking it's a gift, like I'm holding on to my abuser even though he's abusing me, and like the logical mind would be like, leave, what are you doing? And the way that I
Mhm.
looked at it is, I would say this, I'd say, picture yourself with someone that you love unconditionally, a child, let's say.
Yeah.
And if your child was in trouble and did something of harm to another person, of course you'd be embarrassed and be like, whoa, hold on, like I didn't raise my kid to be this way. But would you just abandon your child? No, you would
Right.
want to like get them help. You want to save them, help them, see what's wrong. You would know something's mentally not right if they're hurting people. But like, what is it that, I know this isn't the child I raised, this isn't the baby I rocked. And so that's like how it was when you love unconditionally, you're there through thick and thin. So I knew that the
Mhm.
abuse that he was doing wasn't right. And I knew that he was hurting me. But at the same time, who was I to leave someone that I loved unconditionally when they clearly needed me most? And that is what kept me going. And not to mention, you do become addicted to the abuser, because
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
abuser abuses, and it's a high and a low chemical balance, imbalance that goes in your brain.
Yeah.
So the dopamine is the love bombing and the affection and the emotion, and that's where you always want to get back to. You always want to get back to square one because that's what you remember. But
Mhm.
then the adrenaline and the cortisone and all that is what comes with the abuse. So your mind is constantly throwing out a high cortisone and high dopamine, and it's so imbalanced. So when you actually do first get away from the abuser, you actually start to crave them, because it's like it literally is
Mhm.
the same. They say leaving an abusive relationship is the same as a heroin addiction, because I guess the high from a heroin, I've never done that drug, but I guess the high from a heroin uh, usage is such a great high, because that chemical that they're craving. And that's the same thing with an abuser. You crave the abuser because you're mentally, your chemicals in your brain are mentally just, they're unbalanced. So I forgot where I was going with this, but sorry, I had a brain fart here. Oh, but once you get out of that mentality and you start to like uh just see that there's so much more purpose in stuff for you, you start to realize that this, I don't actually love what's making me sick. I
Mhm.
am in love with the addiction, the facade, the thing that I think that it's going to be,
Yeah.
and it's not. You have to remove yourself from the environment that's making you
Mhm.
sick in order to get better. And that's what we fall into. We fall into the resilience to
Mhm.
keep wanting to do more for someone when we really have to do for ourselves. You can't, for me, a lot of it stems from, I know I shared this with you off of camera, but I came from childhood abuse. And although, it was ex stepfather, and, legally we were taken from the situation. And, even though we were brought out of the trauma was never brought out of us, because since the situation, got depleted, we didn't go through extensive therapy and things like that because the situation changed. So why not just keep moving on with life? That's kind of how it was. Well, I
Mhm.
still had that trauma inside of me. So every time that I would go look for relationships, I would look for the people that were in trouble, the people that were toxic, because I knew that I never wanted to be the monster that I fought as a child. So I wanted to overly love, to be the love that I always craved to have. And so
Mhm.
I would veer towards what love is not and not what love is, because that was how I was raised. I was raised for it
Yeah.
to be toxic. I was raised for it to be abusive and crazy, and the cortisol levels and all of that stuff. And so I was sitting here looking for a love that would have never happened. And so of course all of my relationships and things just kept, being, they kept falling apart because I'm looking for something that I'm giving, but I'm also looking for it in the wrong places because that's what I understand love to be. And so once you realize, oh my God, hold on, like I'm craving love because that's what I knew love was as a sacrifice. But love is actually unconditional. It's you don't need to do things or sacrifice things, including yourself, to be loved.
Right.
That's when you realize, oh my God, I didn't know what love was. And, it's like they say love is a love language.
Mhm.
Know what you're saying. And so no matter if they sit here and they speak Chinese slowly or fastly or say it in increments, like you're still not going to understand. And that's the
Right.
same thing. If like if you don't know love, if you don't heal yourself, you wouldn't even know healthy love or good love if it
Yeah.
even came on your doorstep because you're used to what love is not and you're raised to know what love is not. So until you heal that past trauma and that past circumstance, you will always get things that fall apart because you don't know the
Right.
difference, you
Right.
know?
Right. Wow.
So it's so crucial that you do the inner healing within yourself from whatever you
Mhm.
faced in your childhood. It could even be a marriage that fell apart, and maybe you're still, maybe it's been a decade and now you're looking for new marriage or something. If you don't heal the wounds that you had from that destruction of marriage or, whatever relationship that you were in, you're going to veer towards those individuals because you still want to
Mhm.
be that savior. You still want to be that helper and that healer when
Mhm.
really the healing and the helper and the person that you need to save is yourself, you know? So,
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah.
and that's where I
That's so
say it's
true.
not to destroy you, it's to discover you. It's to discover that it actually starts with you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
once you're in your aligned self, things just come abundantly because you don't have to chase it. You don't have to
Mhm.
force it. You don't have to struggle because now you're in your authenticity and those
Mhm.
types of things just veer towards you because they're the same level as you. They're on that same
Right.
path as you. And so that's where you're like, whoa, this is crazy. Like things just start coming abundantly to you and you didn't have to do the work for it. You didn't have to sacrifice for it because you're now in where you're supposed to be,
Mhm.
and that's the true discovery of it all. That's the path. That's why you're praying to a God to come down and save you, and you're wanting answers, but you're not surrendering to the God to do the work. You're bowing to the devil that you know so well of
Right.
safety, and you're not surrendering to the God that you're praying to for survival. For to be saved, and that's the biggest thing.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes.
Amazing. Yes. With your transformation,
Mhm.
were there ever any moments or any time that you doubted your own strength? And how did you push past that?
I I still to this day, it's been 2 years post my trauma, and what I say is spiritual awakening because I'll be the first to say, I know I've mentioned God in here a few times, and it doesn't even matter of religion. To be honest, I would even say
Yeah.
I'm not even religious. I'm more spiritual. I feel things in a different level. But the reason that I say that and why I mention that is because I was never that kind of person. I would never quote Bible verses, and I
Mhm.
wasn't this big, Bible thumper or going to church all the time or nothing like that. So I don't want it to seem that I'm forcing any sort of religion or aspects or beliefs or
Right.
nothing, because honestly, I just believe that there's a bigger creator. I actually say Gus because I say, God, universe, source. Like, I just say, I call him Gus. Like, that's just my name for him, but that's just
Yeah.
my own nickname. But, I, once you see that what made me go, and like I said, I still doubt. I still have doubts, and I have to remember that I have to trust and I have to know. And one thing that has kept me going is, there's Corinthians in the Bible, and it says love is patient and love is
Mhm.
kind.
Mhm.
And one thing I didn't have was I didn't have no dang on patience. I wanted stuff to be done yesterday. Let's keep on moving. Get to the next thing. I just said that's kind of actually I feel like how everyone is raised. We're always raised to do better, get
Yeah.
more. Seek whatever. And so we never sit in the moment to really absorb like even in sales goals. I was in sales in my life too, in jobs that I've had. And, you reach that goal. And then the next thing you know, the company's like, well, now here's quadruple the goal. And you're like, what the heck? I was like suffering just to get that goal, and it's like, now do more. And so we get
Mhm.
in that mindset. And again, that becomes our comfort zone and our safety zone because it's just do more, 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 more. And realistically, we never sit in the moment. And
Yeah.
that's where I started to know that, like, I'm forcing a transformation and I'm forcing something when really, you know, you may be in the darkness and it may be scary, but like
Mhm.
sit in that moment because there's a reason that you're there. There's a reason that you're sitting there because you need to understand and to learn that your love didn't come from that car that just got repossessed, or
Right.
you don't need love from that man that's abusing you, or what you did as a goal that was freaking phenomenal. Just because they
Mm.
want more doesn't mean that that's that you have to now give your soul basically to get the next goal. Like, you're in this moment for a reason. And so
Mm.
patience actually is half the battle. And so I get into even sometimes a rut because my old self is like, come on.
Yeah. Mm. Mm. Mm.
And so that's what makes me not give up, because it makes me realize there's still hope. And
Mhm.
if I made it this far, and I was at the bottom and I'm being, and now I see light and I'm making a difference, and it may not be going the pace that I want it to be, because trust me, I would be like, all right, what do we have next? I mean, that's my old mentality. I'm always ready for the next thing. But you have to keep moving forward, because if you're, like I said, if you're still here, there is a bigger plate for you
Mhm.
still waiting, and the blessings are undescribable. I mean, once
Yeah.
you start realizing, again, count your blessings, not the burdens, you'll
Mhm.
start realizing, like, wow. And I don't think, I mean, Joe, tell me if this happened to you. Like, once you got into like the other side, let's just say, from your trauma, don't you look back and think, thank God that happened, even though at the time you were like, you felt distraught and you felt like, oh my God, this is the end. I look back and I'm like, God, thank you. Like, if I could literally fall to my knees and thank like
Yeah.
what had happened, I mean, I would do it a million times, because that, like I said, that rejection was dang gone protection.
Mhm. Mhm. And
um,
you wouldn't have it's interesting that you mentioned that, because this is a lot of what you're saying. If you notice, I've been nodding and smiling because everything that you've said, I've lived it, I've resonated with it, I've written about it.
yeah,
Uh, and it's interesting too, that one point that you just brought up, the one questions, because I look back and I say, I wouldn't be myself now if I hadn't gone through that. See,
yes,
a year ago now, a year ago I mean, today, from then, I wouldn't have this mindset that I have now, that if I've gone through that, I've lived through it, I am this new person, I'm calmer, I'm more me, I feel more authentic, whereas before I felt like I was performing. Yeah,
yes,
if that makes sense. And now I don't have to perform. Right?
no,
I don't have to perform. Now I feel like I'm alive. I feel the best that I've ever felt. And it's amazing how I thought that back then I needed someone to
yeah,
help me to feel that way. Isn't that strange?
yes. And I'm telling you, it's because, I mean, even in our our growing years and in school. School's always, you want to do better, you want to get more, you want to learn
Yeah.
more, you want to, so you're always looking. Realistically, love is inner.
Yeah.
And we were raised in these school curriculums and so forth to always look at love on the outside, because
Mhm.
this person's going to make me this, and that car is going to make me feel that, and this clothing or this makeup line or whatever is going to make me feel this way. But really, that's not love, that's desire. You're
Mhm.
desiring to be something, or desiring that this fad makeup, I'm sorry, this fad diet pill is going to make you look like whatever. Like, that's the desire, because you saw that so and so looked this way,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
so and so did that. Well, we are all individually created. Not one person is the same person. That's why we don't have the same thumbprints and fingerprints and
That's
so
right.
forth. So
Right.
even one little pill or one little hairline or one little makeup isn't going to look the same on any one person. That's why there's so many different tints and so many different whatever. They don't do the same thing. So you could go ahead and take this magic pill, and sure, it may work some sort of way, but I guarantee you
Mhm.
there's something else that that person's doing that's also helping them, whether it's changing their
Right.
diet or lifestyle or whatever. And so we get in these ruts that we want to be something that we see with our eyes, because we see the beauty that's out there of whatever this magic thing is, a pill or this or whatever. But truly, it's all internal, and love comes
Mhm.
from inside of you, and
Yeah.
finding your own self. And I'll tell you what, you may not have the perfect beach body, but a beautiful soul and someone that sits inside of their own authenticity is a lot more beautiful than someone's beach body that's walking down the
Absolutely.
street. Because guess what, we all get old, our skin all sags, and it and life gets stressful. So trust me, what you see today is maybe not what you're going to get tomorrow.
Right, right, and we don't wake up looking like this
No, we
either.
don't. No, nope. Even today, I'm like, I need to put my glasses on. It's one of those days. I can't even see straight today. But yes, I mean, once
Amazing.
you realize it's not it's not someone's opinion, it's not someone's assumption, it's not someone's thought, that that is all in the
Mhm.
subconscious mind. When
Yeah.
you are in the conscious mindset of yourself, you will soar higher
Mhm.
than I couldn't even tell you. Higher than the sky. I
Yeah.
mean, being in yourself, because here's the thing. When you're doing something that you love, or you're in these actions of things that fill who you are solely, you don't work a day in life, because
Mhm.
you're doing things from your heart. And
Exactly.
that's why people that do things that they truly love, you'll hear them say, like, I don't even know what to charge this person, because they don't
I
do it.
know.
Yes, they don't do it
It's
because they're not
hard. You
looking
can't put
for
a price
money.
on it.
See, yes, you can't put a price on it, because love is priceless and
Yeah.
it's unconditional. And what you're doing, someone may see as a task, but for you, you could do it with your eyes closed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
that's why you find yourself hard to charge people or
Mhm.
do whatever, because you're like, this takes me 4 seconds to do because I love doing it. And it just,
Mhm.
and I could be like, I wouldn't, what the heck? I mean, I could look at it like, I would charge $1 million to do that. There's no way I'm, crocheting this blanket or whatever,
Right, right.
but, and that's the beauty of life, is when you start doing things in line with who you are and the
Mhm.
creator of what the creator made you to be,
Yeah.
the abundancy is everlasting. And so get out of the mindset of what this abuser is telling you that you are. Get out of the
Mhm.
mindset
Mhm.
of this person that is jealous of you and telling you can't meet these sales goals because they want to, people will bring you down to raise
Mhm.
themselves
Mhm.
up, because they know it's actually opposite. Life truly is a mirror. So if I'm
Right.
sitting here and I'm degrading you for your hairstyle, let's just say, clearly there's something that is making me jealous of you, that your hair is really actually rocking, and I need to, like, fix something within myself, and that's the reason
Right.
why I'm hating on your hair. You know what I mean? When you start seeing
Right,
that,
right.
the way that people act are actually something, there's it's something inside of them, you start seeing things so differently. I
Mhm.
used to be, like I said, I wanted to be the savior and the healer and the so forth. And when people were damaged or showing that hurt, I wanted to be the one that brought love and comfort to their chaos, let's just say. But realistically, it's within them. Like their chaos, there's nothing I can do that is going to save them from their chaos. They have to do it. They have to see that within themselves.
Yeah.
And so once you start seeing that, now when people are ignorant towards me or like people say ignorant things, I'm like, oh man, you're damaged. Like, I almost like, look, I don't say that obviously out loud, but I'm just like, oh man, you need some healing. Like now you actually see it in a different aspect and you don't let it
Yeah.
bother you. Because
Yeah.
the truth is, Joe, when you are spiritually fed, you're not emotionally led. You don't act in
Right.
emotions because you're
Right.
spiritually bound, knowing that, like, I know my
Yep.
worth and value now. I know who I am. I know that I am here with good intentions. I know I'm here with
Mhm.
love and abundancy and joy. And comparison is the thief of joy. And so when you
Yeah.
start comparing yourself to other people and what they have and don't have, and that this is going to make me feel loved and so forth, you've already lost your joy.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's, you can't do it. You got to sit
Yeah.
in your own self. And I'll tell
Mhm.
you, healing isn't for everybody. The spiritual awakening stuff isn't for everybody. I will be the first to
Mhm.
say that, because you'll go through the whole, like, you got to break from the codependency part of it. And the codependency part of it is exactly what we had just talked about. Thinking that
Mhm.
this magic pill is going to make me skinny and this car is going to
Mhm.
make me feel hot, for a week, and this guy's going to make me feel sexy for the day or whatever. Like, that's the codependency you have to break. Then you
Mhm.
start
Mhm.
realizing it's almost like, the veil gets taken off of you and you start actually seeing people through the glasses and the lenses that
Right.
you're
Right.
supposed to see people. So then
Right.
all of a sudden, since God removed you from the room, now all of a sudden these people are getting removed too. So now you start seeing, like, wow, they were fake the whole time. Or like, wow, she would always tell me that because she wanted X, Y, and
Mhm.
Z. And,
Mhm.
it's like you start seeing people for who they truly are. And now I tell people all the time, like, I don't have any friends. I don't have friends anymore. I don't. And it's not,
Mhm.
I mean, trust me, I have acquaintances and I have people, but like, there's no friend that I would like say I bring in my home and I trust by my children and with my life and so forth. Like I used to be that way. I used to open my heart so much to just everyone, but not everyone has the
Mhm.
same heart as you. And when you start
Yeah.
to realize that some people are actually out here for ill will, and you know, we all think that the devil wears a cape and has a pitchfork, but I'm telling you, they actually look as good as your husband laying next to you in your bed, and I learned that the hard way too. As I shared with you off camera, and I'll share to
Yeah.
people in here, coming from domestic violence and being a survivor in domestic violence. Another reason that I use my voice is I have an aunt and a friend that their husbands, both, they experienced domestic violence. They got restraining orders to get away from their spouses, filed for divorce, and both their husbands had gone to, one went to the workplace and one was in their home. And they had uh, taken the lives of my aunt and my high school friend, and then they turned the gun on themselves and took their own lives. So that is another reason, is that, my aunt is not here and my friend is not here to be the voice. And so I feel I need to be the voice for them as well. And we want to see the beauty in everyone. Anyone that has a true authentic heart wants to see the love and the care in every single person, and we're rooting for even those that have the hurt and the evilness inside of them. And we still wish best and we still have hope for them, and that's just it. God's door is always open.
Mhm.
It's not your past to define you. You got to discover
Yeah.
yourself, and
Yeah.
the only person that can do that is yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you made an important point earlier. I mean, everything that you've said is important. One of the things that stood out to me was about
And
healing is
so,
not.
oh, sorry.
That's okay. You
Sorry.
mentioned that that healing is not for everyone. On that
Hmm.
particular note, I I tend to agree in the sense that while yes, everyone is healing is available to everyone, not everyone accepts healing. Some people have
Hmm.
hardened their hearts, and no matter how much you try to help them,
Yeah.
Once they've hardened their hearts and closed that door, you can want the healing for them, but if they don't want it, there's nothing that you can do.
Nope.
And I say that because I've tried. I've
Yeah.
done I've done more than enough trying and sacrificing my own peace and self sense and self worth to help others to heal. But once that heart heart is hardened, you just have to say, okay, fine. Do you continue to try going down that path to help that person to heal them, or you try to save yourself?
Yes.
Then it becomes a choice.
Well, and there's an old saying that says, you know, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. And it's
Right.
so true. That's why how many addicts go to therapy and, you know, go to these recovery houses and whatever. And if they're not ready, they come out and they relapse because they're
Yeah.
not ready yet. It
Yeah.
comes to a
Yeah.
point where they have to be ready to make the decision. And same with me with the abuse. Of course anyone could say this man is beating you up, like he's going to kill you, like what are you doing? But it
Mhm.
wasn't until I finally loved myself more that I left, because it got to the point, like I said, I was just one day it was like a light bulb clicked and I was like, I'm going to die 100% if I stay here, whether it's through the arms of my abuser or by the stress that, you know, literally living and walking on eggshells and being afraid of my own shadow. I mean, it got to that point.
Mhm.
And or I'm going to take the risk and I'm going to try and escape, and you know, and if God's with me and I trust the way and I just keep going straight, then there's a bigger thing for me, you know, there's a bigger path for me. And so I knew that I had, you know, and again, the reason why I say a 50-50 chance with survival is because look at my aunt and my friend, you know, they tried
Yeah.
to escape and got the restraining orders and started the diligence and they didn't make it, you know. So
Yeah.
it isn't 100% chance by leaving either. It really isn't. And a lot of us
Right.
stay because we have hope. And like I said, we have love and we love them so much that, as I gave the analogy earlier, as my child, of course I wouldn't leave my child hurting
Right.
and you know, and you get in that mindset that you want to help them. But you, these abusers, if they don't see themselves as worthy enough to not do the things that they do, first and foremost, someone that loves you would never hurt you. And so if you
Right.
are in that situation, it's not love, you're addicted to the love that
Mhm.
you feel, the illusion, you're addicted to the illusion that you want it to be. And so when
Mhm.
you come out of the illusion and you face reality, you realize that the only person that's going to love me the way that I keep yearning this love from this abuser is myself. And
Yeah.
it has to
Yeah.
start with me. And so that's why, you know, you get to that point where, you know, people say to me all the time, what made you leave? And I said, I finally love myself more. And it's not that I don't love people still, but I needed to love myself more because I lost myself trying
Yeah.
to save someone else. And if you
Mhm.
don't fill your own cups, you can't fill others. That's just
Right.
it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow.
And that's why I made my book, the Sorry Satan, the Souls for the Savior, because, you know, as I said before, you got to stop bowing to the devil, you know, and start surrendering to the Savior that you're praying to
Mhm.
save you.
Mhm.
And it starts with you. It starts with knowing that you're not what that person said you are. You're not what the person makes of you. Let them tell their
Mhm.
stories.
Right. Right.
Who cares? Because reality, at the end of the day, the truth always sets free. And it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it's going to come out. And it's going to come out in a book, in a
Mhm.
voice. And I'm telling you right now, that microphone isn't on that abuser's mouth. It's on mine, you know,
That's right.
and God's doing his magic, making it work. Cause never would I say I would write a book, you know, and it's amazing the things that you do once you start realizing
Yeah.
you are amazing, but you have to be the one to see it.
Mhm.
Everyone sees, you know, it's
Absolutely.
like that pant size. You know, people go, God, you know, Joe, you look great. You're losing weight. And you're like, really? I like squeezed into these pants this morning still, you know, and it's
Right.
like people see the weight loss first
Yeah.
before you.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and once you start seeing it though, it's like a light, like, you know what? These pants feel good today. I'm going to
Mhm.
5 more pounds.
Mhm.
Let's do this, you know? And once you start seeing that, it's limitless. It's
Right.
limitless,
Right.
unstoppable. And that's the resilience that you realize. You just need that
Mhm.
little, leave a little crack open for that light to get into that darkness, because once you see that light, you realize
Mhm.
how big it really gets. And
Right,
so
exactly.
leave that little
Wow.
crack, because there's people like us out here that, we're not doing this because we want attention. We're not doing this because we have nothing else we could be doing. I could think of a million things we could be doing right now. Like, we're doing this because someone needs to hear this today,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And sometimes it is the voice of someone else that it finally clicks, because
Mhm.
your mom could tell you blue in the face, your dad could tell you blue in the face, a friend, whatever. But until sometimes you need to hear it from a different voice and a different light, that's where you realize, you know what? My light got dim, but it never burned
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
And sometimes we just need to be the lighter to light the wick again so that it can start
Yeah.
burning again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we do this. And
Absolutely. As you're healing, because
hmm
for me it's a healing journey. For me it's a healing
yes.
journey. For those who have talked about, we've never fully healed. We're always healing. It's work in progress. We're healing in progress. In progress is
hmm
what I like to say. How do you protect your peace and still hold space for others' pain? Because and here's why I'm asking, because I'm doing this podcast, and as I have as I have guests on, I'm talking to different people, there's so much pain going on. And then I have
hmm
to be able to still stay within my own peace, right? And not to kind of be a sponge and take on the different things. So, how do you protect your own peace and still hold space for others' pain as they're sharing it on bottoms up?
So, what I do is, boundaries are so important. And boundaries aren't walls to keep people out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bridge to only let the right ones in, because the
Mm-hmm.
ones that are going to do the work and to be a part, they're going to do the work to climb over that bridge to get to where you are. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have to come to the realization that I could still love and have a loving heart, but if people aren't ready, I need to love them at a distance, because my peace is something I sacrificed for, I paid for, I had blood, sweat, tears for. So my peace actually, I'm a single woman, and I tell people all the time, the reason I'm single isn't because of something that is wrong with me or others or anything.
Mm-hmm.
My Me being single right now is a choice, and the reason why is because
Exactly.
I literally value my peace. I mean, love is down here and peace is like way up here, because the things that I gave and sacrificed and whatever for are like way more than even, and for me to say that even with love, that I was abused and I was faced the death for, believe it or not,
Mhm.
my peace is still that much higher, and
Yeah.
I value it that much more. And so, I always use the analogy that, anyone could get a checking account, right? I mean, even if you have
Mhm.
bad credit, good credit, anyone could get a checking account. And my whole life, I had checking accounts. I had deposits, I had withdrawals, I had all these people coming and going and whatever. Well, now I don't want a checking account anymore. I want an investment, because I
That's right.
invested in myself. And until people have, and not everyone can have an investment. Some people don't have the assets to have investments, right? Like they had to do the
Mhm.
work in order to be an investor. And that's the
Mhm.
same thing
Mhm.
as me. I don't want a checking account anymore. I've had that in my life, and I don't want the coming and the going and the revolving
Yeah,
doors of that. I want the
exactly. Yeah.
investment. And the people that have done that work, Joe, they're going to do the work to have people like you in their life too.
Mhm.
And they're going to meet you at that peace level,
Yeah.
because they're not going to entertain the dilly dallying and the in and the outs and the
Mhm.
checking and the withdrawals. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to entertain that. So, you know, that was a big lesson too in the healing process, is, guarding your heart to where, it's okay to love from a distance
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
I had to
Mhm.
set some of my family at a distance. It's not because I don't
Mhm.
love them. I love them so
Mhm.
much and I want the best for them. But they're toxic to my
Yeah.
healing journey, because
Yeah.
they don't want to heal. They don't want to face things. They'd rather stuff it down inside of them. And that's
Yeah.
the worst thing you could do, because what you're doing is you're taking a bunch of seeds and you're throwing it down and you're stuffing it down. Well, eventually those seeds grow and they grow
Mhm.
into the person, the mindset, the actions, and you don't even realize it because it's so common to you and we're creatures of habit and it's a habitual thing that you do. You don't even realize that you're being toxic to other people because that's just all you know. And,
Right.
that's your comfort zone. That's who you are as an individual. That's your character. And sure, you have the right to heal. That's part of your free will. You have, if
Mhm.
you want to stuff your feelings and that's how you heal, that's fine. And I will respect that because that's your boundary, just like it's my boundary to keep you at a
Mhm.
distance because that's what I need to do. And I
Right.
also do like a lot of, meditation and like just I do a lot of breathing techniques and things like that to let go of negative energy because as you said with the podcast and I myself I'm a life coach so I hear a lot of people's trauma and things like that they give to me to express to me and so I do have to kind of like let that negative energy go
Yeah.
because having a loving heart is hard too and I do have such empathy for some of these individuals for the situations they're in but I have to remind myself that we all have one gift, the same
Yeah.
gift, and that gift is free will. And if they're not willing to free their own soul and use their free will to escape from that situation, I can
Mhm.
only empathize with them so much, and until they see the light that I needed to see, that's and actually I mean I feel like a lot of people that have been in trauma the one thing they'll say is like I was in the darkness and nobody came like I feel like they and I could say that myself
Mhm.
like I felt like I was drowned and I felt like I was in a lake.
Wow. Ugh, this is such rich, rich conversation.
And the people that I thought sorry and the people that I thought that would help me and come save me and throw in a life jacket weren't there to do so and so that was the one thing and in the beginning I would hold a grudge for that and I was like you weren't even there when I needed you most and now I'm on the opposite side where I'm like you know what I'm glad that I was sinking because I realized at the end of the day I was brought into this world alone and I'm going to be leaving the same way. And at the end of the day, it's you. You are responsible for everything that, no, I'm not responsible and I don't need to forgive what my abuser
Yeah.
did with his actions, but
Yeah.
I am responsible for entertaining it to that level. And I am
Mhm.
responsible for forgiving the understanding that they clearly don't know what love is either. And so,
Mhm.
how could I fault someone and hold this grudge for someone that and not forgive them for their lack of knowing when I didn't know myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you tend to those are the things that you let go of and the burdens and the bricks and the weight that you have to realize that that will interrupt your peace if you don't let go of it,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And so that's where I kind of, you got to keep those boundaries because it will get the best of you. And
Yeah.
as you know, negativity is like poison, it'll eat you alive?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Wow. And and it can spread like wildfire.
yes,
Yeah, this is such a rich conversation. I could go on for hours just
yes,
talking to you because again, it seems like we have kindred spirits because a lot of
yeah,
what you're talking about again is like, wow, even your responses to some of the questions that I ask, I can see myself in your responses. It's like, wow,
yeah.
this is unbelievable. So as we wrap up, if someone listening feels like they're at their lowest point right now, what would you say to them?
Congratulations, because it's only here, it's only up from here, and don't give up because, again, as I said before, when you're at the bottom, there's only one way now. And guess where that's going? You're going up. And this is not, again, to destroy you,
Mhm.
it's to discover you. You have to stop seeking those burdens and letting them eat at you because, as we just said, the negativity and it is poisonous, it's dangerous.
Mhm.
And where you start is acknowledging. Day one becomes when you start acknowledging that you are more than what that person said or did to you. It's actually opposite. Like I said, it's a mirror. They did
Mhm,
that to you because they saw the light and the beauty and the phenomenal gifts that you have. They wanted that. And so
mhm,
that's why they did what they did or acted as they did or said what they said. So it's not, you're at the bottom because this is the time to build that healthy and solid
mhm,
foundation, not the rocky one that you've been living on and praying for safety that it didn't fall apart or, or didn't get to where it is now. This is the time that you build that solid foundation because all empires need that heavy structure because it's going to be the abundance is going to be way overflowing and you don't see
mhm,
it now, but I promise you, if I could take you and take your shoes and put them in the future, I would wholeheartedly to show you
mhm.
that what's ahead is unbelievable. You have to just keep going. And the only way is through because you have to go through that darkness to really embrace the light.
Yeah.
And those people, some of the people you have in your life, you may think that you need them, but the
Mhm,
truth is they are not valued enough or they didn't do the work within themselves to be a part of your abundance that's to come. So sometimes it's just you're standing in the way of their karma. They're due for something else that's less than, and they wouldn't appreciate or they would take advantage of the abundancy that's to come. So you have to get rid of that weight and you have to get rid of, the removal of what you're holding on to so tight because what's ahead is bigger and they
mhm.
can't be a part of it because they would just destroy that. So you need to let that go so that you can bring in the abundance that's waiting for you.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
let go of what you think is and you have to trust and know. And it's the hardest thing because who wants to trust something that you're blind to, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm,
if every single blind person in this world could trust their sight and their smells and their other senses that they have to know that they could get through life and they could know that people are who they are, then you
mhm.
can too.
Yeah,
And that's what
absolutely.
you have to realize. You got to get to that point where you're like, you know what? There's a bigger picture for me. And the reason that God hasn't given it to me is because I need to get rid of the weight that's holding me down.
Yeah,
You can't move your sail. You can't sail your ship if you have the anchor
that's
in
right.
the ground. It's not going to go
Right.
anywhere. You got to keep
Wow.
going. And
Well said. Wow.
it starts with you. It really starts
Yeah,
with you. And it's
yeah.
the accountability. That's the hard part. Is you don't
Yes.
want to be accountable because it's so easy to say, nope, it's their fault. They did it. The reason I acted this way is because they did this. But really, it is you.
Yeah.
Whatever that destruction is that you're entertaining. And so
Mhm,
once you start realizing that this is to open your eyes, because like I said, if you don't experience rain, you'll never appreciate the sunrise. And
mhm.
life is a gift. Stop
Yeah.
wasting the sunrises crying over the rain. That there's enough water there. Keep moving. And
Yeah.
you got to take yourself out of the environment. Like if a flower is in a flower pot and it's supposed to be in a huge garden bed, you're killing it by leaving it in this pot. You got to remove it from the soil that it's in and put it in something larger so it can grow. And then, what you're watering, it's not enough water. You got to put it in
Mhm,
something that will have abundance of water. And that's how you grow. That's how you blossom. You're shrinking yourself to be in this little pot. You can't
mhm.
grow a tree in a little pot. You got to put a tree in its atmosphere. And that's just it. You are meant for bigger and better things. So until you finally realize your worth and your value and remove yourself from that tiny little pot, stop shrinking yourself because you're much bigger. And our creator, our love, our source, they see that and they keep trying to remove you and you keep putting yourself back in that soil. Like, get out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
you
Wow.
know? And that's
Wow.
that's the truth. Like it starts with you. It's the realization that you're
Mhm.
bigger and you're meant for such bigger things. But you have to move to the bigger places.
Yeah. Well said. Well said, Carrie. Uh,
Thank
finish the sentence for me.
Mhm.
Silence becomes dangerous when what?
Silence becomes dangerous when you don't use the voice that was given to you to be the the voice that needs to be heard from
Mhm.
everyone, to everyone. And sometimes it's not the voice for you, it's the voice for another, because God works through others.
Yeah.
And so silence is killer if you don't use it to
Mhm.
its abundancy. We all have a voice,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for that. Your voice isn't there. It's there for you to spread that knowledge. And the one thing that we were all brought here by love. At one
Mhm.
point in
Mhm.
time, two individuals had love and made us. And we, that's not destruction. That's not evilness. Evilness and destruction and all of that is learned.
Yeah.
That isn't something that we're born with. So instead of aiding into the chaos and the craziness and the destruction and the evilness, use your gift of why you were brought here, and that's love, and spread that love and kindness to
Yeah.
everybody. It
Yeah.
costs you nothing to be kind, and that kindness is what saved my life, and it's going to save
Mhm.
another's, and it's going to save
Mhm.
another's, and all of that is from your voice.
Amen.
And it's breaking that
Wow.
silence,
Yeah.
because
Amen.
that is what the devil wants you to do.
Mhm.
Charlie Kirk, that whole thing, he was shot in
Mhm.
the neck, because the neck is where your voice comes out, and he was using his voice. Half of these massacres are done with the neck. If you look at even half of the things that have gone through, because that's the devil's work. He wants to silence
Mhm.
you. And
Wow.
I'll tell you, healing, you're going to be tested, because here's the thing. God's not going to turn around and give you a steak dinner just because you changed your attitude that you need to do. What he's going to do is he's going
Right.
to test you. He's going to give you a hot dog at first, and he's going to see
Yeah.
what you do with the hot dog, and then give you the steak dinner once you didn't take the
Yeah.
hot dog and go backwards.
Yeah, with a little. Yep.
And that's what you have to realize, because people will also get in the rut where they want to give up because they've done so much, and then they see this little bit of a, like even the podcast, you do the
Mhm.
podcasting, and maybe you don't see much traffic, and after the fourth or fifth one you're like, forget this, I'm wasting
Yeah.
my time. And it's like, no, because God's not going to sit here and throw the steak dinner at you. He's going to say,
Exactly.
let's see what you do from the
Right.
traffic you have, and who's aiding to the voices here. And
Mhm.
then it's
Mhm.
going to be that one podcast, and that one thing that just hits solely to so many
Mhm.
people, and
Mhm.
then it's going to just explode. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's there's a reason, there's a purpose, and if you follow your gut, and we were all given intuition for a reason. And if you
Mhm.
follow
Mhm.
that, run with it, because
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
your gift. Your gift
Yeah.
is that.
Yep.
And it's that voice, it's that, don't fall into the silence, because that's
Mhm.
exactly what the devil wants you to do. And that's
Yeah.
what your abuser does, that's what the people that do you wrong do. No bully wants to be advertised that they're a bully. They do it, behind closed doors, and
Right.
little pokes here and there, and that's that they do that because that's how they get away with it. Be the voice,
Yeah.
because that voice is going to
Absolutely.
save.
Wow.
So
Wow. Thank you so much, Carrie.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
and thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you. Absolutely. Thank you for reminding us that broken doesn't mean it's beyond repair, right? Your story is a mirror for anyone who's ever thought that they can't come back from whatever their situation is. And sometimes we do think that. We do think, how can I come
Cover,
back from this? Or we can't come back from this.
right. It's
Yeah.
brokenness isn't to be broken. It's to find the beauty
Yeah.
in your soul and within yourself. And
Yeah.
and thank you so much for having me, Joe. And you are such a
Absolutely.
beautiful person yourself. And
Thank
keep
you. You are
keep
as
spreading
well.
those. Thank you.
As
Keep
well you
spreading the
are.
word and telling, the more
Yes.
voices that are out there saying, is it's just that one, it only takes that one person to hear it
Yeah.
and to know that they are beautiful and wonderful too. We all are. We all,
Yeah,
and you're not meant to be
you're
perfect.
beautiful. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
love your hair.
Oh,
I
so
love just the beauty
sweet.
that comes through in your voice and in your disposition. I can tell
Thank
that you're a
you.
beautiful soul. Now, to
Everyone needs to
everyone,
stop like trying to be perfect, because really
yeah,
we are imperfect for a reason, because
yes,
all of our imperfections are to be meant for someone and something perfectly. And once you realize that and be in your own self, it soars from there.
yes,
The only thing
absolutely.
you really need to focus on and worry about is just having a good heart, doing things in good nature. You may mess up, and that's okay if you mess
Mhm.
up, because that's how you learn too. But if you know that at the end of the day, you could go to bed and know that you did that in good intentions, you didn't
Yeah.
mean to say that, in a rude way, or you didn't mean to do that in a destructive way, you really were trying to help or whatever,
Mhm,
that's all
mhm.
that matters. Because
Yeah,
God knows your heart and God knows your soul. And if you just keep doing those practices in good heart and good faith, it's going to align itself out, you know?
yeah.
And that's the bottom line. Is just keep
Mhm.
going, keep moving.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, to everyone listening, your silence doesn't have to be your story's ending. It doesn't have
No,
to end that way.
no.
Sometimes that moment you hit the bottom is where healing starts to lift you up. You just heard how Carrie walked through her process, her healing process, and where she's at today. She's come on the other side. And I have come on the other side, and so many others. And so, my encouragement is for those who may be going under, for you, you may still be laying down, but if you need help getting up, reach out, speak up. Do not stay there and suffer in silence. There's a way to get up. Crawl if you have to get off the floor, but get up.
Yes.
That's where it begins in the getting up. So,
Yes.
Carrie, thank you again. Thank you again for today. This has been real. I can stop the recording now.